The call came while I was reviewing surgical notes for the next morning's procedures. As a cardiac surgeon at Minneapolis General, I'd grown used to my phone ringing at odd hours. Emergencies didn't follow business schedules, but the caller ID showed Wells Fargo, not the hospital. Dr. Elena Martinez? The voice was professional, clipped. This is David Hutchinson from Wells Fargo's Fraud Investigation Unit. I need to verify some information about a loan you cosigned. I set down my coffee, frowning. I haven't cosigned any loans. You didn't cosign an $80,000 personal loan for Sophia Martinez on October 15th. My sister. Of course. No, I did not. I explicitly told her 6 months ago I wouldn't cosign anything after she defaulted on the car loan I helped her with. Silence. Then, Dr. Martinez, I think we need to discuss this in person. Can you come to our downtown branch tomorrow? What exactly is going on? The loan is in default. Has been for 3 months. When we tried to contact you about your obligations as cosigner, the phone numbers didn't match our records. That triggered our fraud protocol. He paused. The signature on the documents, it's yours, but something seemed off. That's why I'm calling your number from our original records, not the one on the loan application. My hands went cold. Someone forged my signature. That's what we need to determine. Can you come in at 9 a.m.? I agreed, hung up, and immediately called Sophia, straight to voicemail. She'd been dodging my calls for weeks, claiming she was super busy with her new boutique. The boutique I'd refused to invest in. The boutique she'd sworn she had funding for. My next call was to my parents' house. Mom answered on the third ring. Elena, how's my favorite doctor? Mom, is Sophia there? No, she's at the store. You know, her business is really taking off. Your father and I are so proud. Is Dad there? He's in his study. Why? Is everything okay? Just put him on, please. I heard muffled conversation, then Dad's voice. Elena, what's this about? Wells Fargo just called about an $80,000 loan I supposedly cosigned for Sophia. Silence. Long enough that I knew. Dad, your sister needed help. His voice was defensive, the same tone he used when I caught him taking money from my piggy bank to buy Sophia toys when we were kids. The boutique is a good investment. You forged my signature. Don't be dramatic. I just facilitated things. You make good money. 6 figures. Sophia's trying to build something, and you wouldn't help your own sister. Because she's defaulted on every loan she's ever taken. I stood up, pacing my office. Because I'm still paying off the car that got repossessed. Because family helps family, Elena. Family doesn't commit fraud. It's not fraud when it's family. I knew you'd pay it if it came to that. You always do. You're the responsible one. The casual admission made my head spin. He'd forged my signature, committed identity theft, and he was acting like he'd done me a favor. Dad, this is a felony. The bank knows something's wrong. They want me there tomorrow for a fraud investigation. Just tell them you forgot you signed it. His voice had shifted from defensive to pleading. Elena, please. This could ruin everything. My job, my reputation. Your reputation. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You stole my identity. I borrowed it, for your sister. For family. I hung up. That night, I went through my documents, credit reports, bank statements, investment accounts, looking for other borrowing I might have missed. What I found made me sick. 3 credit cards I'd never opened, all maxed out. A line of credit against my condo. Another personal loan, smaller, from a different bank. All opened in the last year. All with signatures that looked like mine but weren't. All with contact information that led back to my childhood home, not my actual address. Total damage, $127,000. I sat on my bathroom floor and cried. Not pretty tears, ugly, body-shaking sobs. 13 years of medical school, residency, fellowship. Years of 36-hour shifts, missed holidays, postponed relationships. I'd built my life so carefully, so precisely, like the surgeries I performed, and my father had cut through it all with a pen. The next morning, I arrived at Wells Fargo with a folder of evidence and a heart full of rage. David Hutchinson was younger than I'd expected, with kind eyes that turned hard when he saw my documentation. This is extensive, he said, flipping through credit card statements. How long have you known? 12 hours. I found the rest after you called. And you're certain your father did this? He admitted to the Wells Fargo loan on the phone. I'm assuming he did the rest too. He has access to all my information, social security number, birth date, mother's maiden name. I made him my emergency contact years ago. Stupid. David leaned back. Dr. Martinez, I need to be very clear about what happens next. This is identity theft and fraud. If we pursue this and with this evidence, your father will likely face criminal charges. Your sister too, if she knew the cosigner was forged. I understand. This will destroy your relationship with your family. I thought about Sophia, who'd always gotten everything she wanted while I worked double shifts to pay for medical school. About Dad, who'd praised her entrepreneurial spirit while calling my career workaholic nonsense. About Mom, who'd ask why I couldn't just help out a little every time Sophia needed money. They destroyed it when they stole from me, I said. David nodded and picked up his phone. I need to bring in local law enforcement and our senior investigator. Are you prepared to give a full statement? Yes. What followed were 3 hours of questions, documentation, and forms. Detective Sarah Mills from the Financial Crimes Unit was thorough, asking about family dynamics, past loans, access to personal information. I answered everything honestly, watching my family's crimes stack up like evidence bags. We'll need to interview your father, Detective Mills said finally. This afternoon, if possible. It's better if he doesn't know we're coming. He's retired. He'll be home. She looked at me with something like sympathy. You don't have to be there. I want to be. At 2 p.m., I sat in an unmarked car outside my childhood home in Edina. The 2-story colonial looked exactly as it had when I left for college. Perfect lawn, Mom's roses, the basketball hoop where Dad had taught me to shoot. Now it felt like a crime scene. Detective Mills and her partner walked to the door. I watched Mom answer, her face shifting from confusion to alarm. They disappeared inside. 20 minutes later, my phone exploded. Mom, what are you doing? Sophia, you called the cops on Dad? Are you insane? Aunt Linda, your mother is hysterical. This is not how family handles problems. I turned off my phone and waited. An hour passed before the front door opened. Dad emerged in handcuffs, Detective Mills reading him his rights. He looked smaller somehow, shuffling in his house slippers, Mom trailing behind in tears. As they put him in the squad car, he saw me. Our eyes met across the lawn. His face cycled through emotions, surprise, anger, betrayal. Betrayal. As if I were the one who committed crimes. Detective Mills approached my car. He confessed to everything, seemed to think explaining it was for family would make it okay. Your sister was home too. She knew about the forgeries. Is she being questioned now? She's claiming ignorance, but we found documents in her boutique with forged signatures. She knew. I drove home on autopilot, my phone off, my mind empty. In my condo, the one Dad had taken a line of credit against. I poured a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, watching the Minneapolis skyline. The next days blurred together. Dad was charged with identity theft, fraud, and forgery. Sophia with fraud and conspiracy. Both were released on bail, which Mom paid using their retirement funds. The family explosive was immediate and nuclear. My uncle called me a traitor to the family. My cousins unfriended me on social media. Mom left voicemails sobbing about how I destroyed everything and put your father in jail over money. Only one family member reached out with support. My cousin Maria, a teacher in Street Paul. I'm proud of you, she said simply. Uncle Rob's been pulling this crap for years. Remember when Grandma's jewelry went missing? When Aunt Linda's identity got stolen right after she refused to loan him money? You're the only one who stood up to him. The legal process ground on. Wells Fargo reversed the fraudulent loan, but the damage to my credit was extensive. The other creditors were less cooperative, requiring lawyers and fights. My savings, earmarked for a house, went to legal fees and paying off fraudulent debts while fighting to prove I didn't owe them. Dad pled guilty to avoid trial. The prosecutor, seeing the extensive fraud and his complete lack of remorse, recommended 18 months in federal prison. The judge, noting the breathtaking violation of parental trusts, gave him 2 years. I wasn't there for the sentencing. I was in surgery, repairing a heart, fixing something that could be fixed, unlike my family. Sophie got probation and restitution. Her boutique, built on stolen money, closed within a month. She moved back with Mom, who refused to speak to me. I heard through Maria that they told everyone I'd misunderstood the situation, that I'd overreacted, that I'd chosen money over family. 6 months later, I was reviewing charts when my assistant knocked. "Dr. Martinez, there's a woman here, says she's your mother." Mom stood in my office doorway, aged a decade in 6 months. Her perfect hair was gray at the roots, her designer clothes replaced with simple slacks and a cardigan. "Elena." "Mom." She sat uninvited. "Your father has liver disease. The prison doctors say he needs a transplant evaluation. They need family medical history. Will you?" "I'll send the records." "He wants to see you." "No. Elena, he's sick. He could die. He stole $127,000 from me. He destroyed my credit. He committed felonies. He chose money over his daughter's trust." "You chose money over family." "No." I stood, signaling the conversation was over. "He chose theft over family. I chose justice over enabling. There's a difference. How can you be so cold?" "Years of practice. Dad taught me that family will steal from you and call it love." "Valuable lesson." She left crying. I went back to my charts, my surgeries, my life rebuilt on the ashes of family betrayal. A year later, I got a letter from federal prison. Dad's handwriting, still perfect despite everything. "Elena, I'm sorry you felt hurt by what happened. I was only trying to help your sister. Family is supposed to support each other. I hope someday you'll understand and forgive me for doing what I thought was best." Dad. "Not I'm sorry I stole from you. Not I'm sorry I committed fraud. Just I'm sorry you felt hurt." The narcissist's apology, taking no responsibility while making me the problem. I filed the letter with the rest of the legal documents. Evidence of a man who never understood that helping one child doesn't mean stealing from another. Who never grasped that family isn't a license for crime. My practice thrived. I bought a house with pristine credit, slowly rebuilt and heavily monitored. I found peace in the operating room, where hearts could be repaired with skill and precision, unlike trust. Sometimes, during family holidays I no longer attend, I wonder if I could have handled it differently. Let the fraud slide, paid the debts, kept the family intact. Then I remembered Detective Mill's words. "Your father showed no remorse. He seemed genuinely confused why you were upset. In his mind, your success was family property. He felt entitled to it." That's what made him collapse when the investigator explained the charges. Not guilt over what he'd done, but shock that there would be consequences. The realization that his responsible daughter wouldn't just quietly fix everything like always. I chose justice over enabling. Truth over family lies. My future over their fraud. And despite what my mother thinks, that didn't make me cold. It made me free.